Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So there was one place where Srila Prabhupada said that there's 400,000 different human species. And a lot of them aren't civilized. They're like tribal. And then we come up into the civilized ones. And then of course there's also human beings on the heavenly planets. And human beings on the lower planets as well. But they're not civilized. So we're reading text 77, is it? 78. So just a short purport. And we have altogether just 3 more after this. 2 more. Okay, so we'll run through the Sanskrit. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti Devashina Prakta Nishama Bharatasa Shaba Pujayamasa Suprita Krishnam Cha Prema Vivala Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti Devashina Prakta Nishama Bharata Shaba Pujayamasa Suprita Krishnam Cha Prema Vivala. Shukaruvacha Iti Devashina Praktam Nishama Bharata Shava Pujayamasa Suprita Krishnam Cha Prema Vivala. Cha Iti Devashina Praktam Nishamya Bharata Shava Pujayamasa Suprita Krishnam Cha Prema Vivala. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Iti, thus, Deva Rishina, by the great saint Narada Muni, Praktam, described, Nishamya, hearing, Bharat Rashaba, the best of the descendants in Bharat Maharaj's dynasty, namely Maharaj Yudhisthira. Very well. Pujayam Asha, worshipped. Suprita, being extremely pleased. Krishnam, unto Lord Krishna. Cha, also. Prema Vivala, in the ecstasy of love of Krishna. Translation, Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhisthira, the best member of the Bharat dynasty, thus learned everything from the descriptions of Narada Muni. After hearing these instructions, he felt great pleasure from within his heart, and in great ecstasy, love and affection, he worshipped Lord Krishna. Responsibly please. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhisthira, the best member of the Bharat dynasty, thus learned everything from the descriptions of Narada Muni. After hearing these instructions, he felt great pleasure from within his heart, and in great ecstasy, love and affection, he worshipped Lord Krishna. Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is natural that when someone belonging to one's family circle is understood to be very great, one becomes ecstatic in love, thinking, oh, such a great personality is our relative. When Sri Krishna, who was already known to the Pandavas, was further described by Narada Muni to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally the Pandavas were very amazed, thinking, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is with us as our cousin. Certainly their ecstasy was extraordinary. Haribol. So we're coming to the end now of this chapter, and Maharaj Yudhisthira was very upset after the battle, and eventually it was only Bhishma Deva who was able to pacify him. Why was Maharaj Yudhisthira upset? Do you know how many? Any idea how many? Yeah, I heard it was hundreds of millions of soldiers. Because one of the problems was clearing the battlefield for the next day's fight. So many bodies. And then how to feed them all as well. So a lot of soldiers were killed. If Maharaj Yudhisthira had just accepted that he wasn't going to get the kingdom, nobody would have been killed. So does anyone know what Bhishma Deva said to Maharaj Yudhisthira that pacified him? He said that everyone is being moved, just as the clouds are being moved by the wind. We are all being moved by the will of Providence. And it was to help Maharaj Yudhisthira understand that he wasn't really the doer. And Arjuna didn't have the same problem. Do you know why Arjuna didn't have the same problem? Because there's something in the Bhagavad Gita that happens in the 11th chapter. And that's why Arjuna wasn't. Yeah, there's something that happens in the 11th chapter, and when Arjuna becomes aware of that, then he doesn't feel sad or guilty. You know what that is, Jananda? What was it in the 11th chapter? In the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he shows Arjuna something which means that when the battle takes place, Arjuna doesn't feel guilty about all the soldiers being killed. He shows him that he'd already killed them, yeah. They were already dead. And we just read in Little Blue Book of Krishna last night, they were all saying at the end of the battle, who's the man of the match? Who's the one that really won the war? Was it Arjuna? Was it Bhima? And Krishna said, let's ask Barbarik. Do you know who Barbarik is? Barbarik was the son of Ghotakach. Do you know who Ghotakach was the son of? Ghotakach was the son of Bhima. He was born from Hadambini, a Rakshasa. So Ghotakach was very powerful. When he was killed, he turned into a mountain. As he dropped, he crushed thousands and thousands of soldiers. And his son, Ghotakach, his son, was Barbarik. Do you know who, you haven't heard who Barbarik is? Never heard Barbarik. So Barbarik, they were all asking the soldiers, how long will it take to win the war? And Bhishma Deva said he could finish it in so many days. And Arjuna said in so many days. It was like 2 weeks, 12 days. Then they asked Barbaric, how long would it take you to fight the war? Have a guess. How long? He said, Jayananda. 1 minute. He said he would kill everybody, 600 million soldiers on the battlefield in 1 minute. So Krishna came to him as a Brahmin and he said, whose side will you fight on? He said, I will fight on the weakest side. So that would be the Pandavas. But what would be the problem with that? As he was fighting, the Kurus would become the weaker side, so then he would join with them. So he would oscillate from side to side till everybody was killed. So Krishna says, prove that you can do it. And he had 3 arrows. Do you know what the 3 arrows were? 3 arrows. And so he fired the first arrow. He was standing at the foot of a peepal tree. And Krishna said, I'd like to see you prove by penetrating every leaf of the tree with your arrows. So the first one touched every leaf and hovered over Krishna's foot, because Krishna had his foot over a leaf. And then the second one went through every leaf. And the third one, I think it's to say which ones he's not supposed to shoot, you know. So then Krishna says, very good. I would like to ask for some charity. And he goes, yeah, and he goes, I'd like your head. So then Barbaric realized it was Krishna. Do you know what happened then, Jayananda? You never will if you don't stay awake. So then after that, he agreed. He said, okay, I will give you my head in charity, but I would like the benediction that I can watch the entire battle. So Krishna said, okay, took his head off, put him on top of a hill on a stick, and Barbaric watched the whole battle. So when they were saying who was the man of the match, who was the one that actually killed everybody, who's the one that killed more than anybody else, and was the determining factor, and Barbaric started laughing. And he said it was Krishna. He said before everybody was killed, the chakra came first and killed them, and then the arrow shot them afterward. But it was the chakra that killed everybody. Have you heard that before, Jayananda? What haven't you heard before? And then he said that Krishna was the one that actually won the battle. And do you know what he said in reference to how it was Krishna that won the battle? It was in reference to his Sudarshan chakra. No, I'm saying, I just said it just now. Do you remember what it was? You didn't hear it, no? So before the arrow actually killed the person, the Sudarshan chakra killed the person. And then the arrow went into them after that. And Barbaric saw all that. So he was laughing because it was Krishna that did everything. So because Arjuna was aware of that, then he wasn't so devastated. But Maharaj Yudhishthira was feeling it was his fault and he could have avoided it. And that's what Krishna was saying to Arjuna. It's not a question of whether we kill them or whether we don't kill them. They're already killed. So whether you fight or not won't make any difference. They're already killed. But we see here that Maharaj Yudhishthira was feeling great ecstasy. So he'd gone. I mean, that's quite a these associates of Krishna, they get put into very difficult situations. They have to do very difficult services. So imagine having to do a service where you felt like you were responsible for killing hundreds of millions of people. Quite a heavy service. But here he's also getting a lot of nectar. He's feeling extraordinary ecstasy and love and affection for Lord Krishna. He's like so amazed that his relative, his cousin, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's chosen to be with them. So he's really happy. So any questions or comments? It's a matter of being an instrument, yeah. And what stops us from being an instrument? Apart from the mode of ignorance. False ego, yeah. The ahankara. I'm the doer, but it's actually Krishna that's doing everything. It looks like it's us doing it, but it's actually Krishna that's doing it. That's the illusion. That we're the doer. So when we become a pure devotee, then we act so much on Krishna's behalf that he just uses us like an instrument in his hand. And that's what Guru Tattva is. Guru Tattva is the jiva under the shelter of the Vishnu Tattva or the Shakti Tattva. And then he doesn't behave like a normal jiva anymore because he's been directed to say this or say that, because Krishna knows what the audience that are listening need to hear. So as you go on doing Sankirtan, then you become more empowered to understand how to be able to preach to people in such a way that you can engage them and convince them to some degree. If you can't convince them, at least it creates some doubt that maybe there is more to life than just sense gratification. Because they already do have a doubt, because they're not really convinced that that's what it's all about. So you're confirming their doubts. And that's the super soul whispering to them. There's more to it than this. If you don't get it right now, you'll be coming back again. So the super soul is telling them these things. Any other questions or comments? Prabhupada says it's natural that when someone belonging to your family is understood to be very great, one becomes ecstatic, thinking, oh, such a great personality is our relative. So it's interesting that it's not a competitive, it's not that you're thinking this person is better than us, but you're proud and happy that person is so special. If you have somebody in your family that's very talented, you're not envious of them, you're really happy. It's called sympathetic joy. It's advised for people that are very envious, that try and take pleasure in other people's successes. Sympathetic joy. So it's interesting, isn't it, that they already had an intimate relationship with Krishna, and then it was being revealed. So when it was revealed to Arjuna that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately felt very embarrassed. He was saying, again in the 11th chapter, he was getting down and paying his obeisances and saying, I'm so sorry, please forgive me for any offenses I've made. So Maharaj Yudhisthira has learned everything from the descriptions of Narada Muni, and Narada Muni has also explained to him that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what's the difference between Narada Muni and Maharaj Yudhisthira? In terms of their relationship with Krishna? More awe and reverence. Yeah, he never forgets who Krishna is. And sometimes he becomes a little bit irritated. Do you remember the story the other day, Jananda Prabhu? Narada Muni got irritated by something that Arjuna did. Do you remember? He went into the palace in Dwarka, and Krishna and Arjuna had fallen asleep. They'd been speaking till late at night. And do you remember what irritated him? he was laying with his legs across Krishna's body. And Narada Muni thought, that's very disrespectful. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so he came back later on and he said to Krishna, he said, I saw Arjuna, I think he's being a bit disrespectful to you. And do you remember what Krishna said to Arjuna? To Narada Muni. He gave him some advice to go back in the dead of night when Arjuna was sleeping and listen very closely to what he's saying, go right up to his mouth. And what was Arjuna saying? What was he saying, Jayananda? He just said it. Krishna. He was saying Krishna. He was sleeping, but he was just saying Krishna, Krishna, Krishna in his sleep. So then Narada Muni realized that Arjuna was a more intimate devotee than he was. He had awe and reverence. Arjuna was so absorbed in love for Krishna, and because of that absorption, then he was faultless. Because everything he was doing was just out of pure love for Krishna. So when everything's done out of pure love, then there's no offense. There's no rule or regulation applying to Raganuga Bhakti, because it's spontaneous, out of love. So there's no ill intent. So therefore it's faultless, even though it doesn't comply with rules and regulations. He should have been Pujari clean before he touched Krishna. You shouldn't touch Krishna with your legs or feet. He was above all those rules and regulations. So how do we assimilate our journey in devotional service from Vaidhi Bhakti to Raganuga? Jayananda. How do we become spontaneous? If we don't become spontaneous, what is the problem with that? What's the destination if you don't achieve spontaneous devotional service, ecstatic devotional service? What's your destination? Vaikuntha. Vaidhi Bhakti takes you to Vaikuntha. You just follow the rules and regulations. You appreciate Krishna as the Supreme Person. You serve. You follow your commitments. You follow all the rules and regulations nicely, and you go back to Vaikuntha. If you want to go to Goloka, what you have to do? Yeah, your relationship has to become spontaneous, not just following rules and regulations, but because you want to do that. You have an attraction. And externally, there's no difference between someone doing Vaidhi Bhakti and or at least in our sampradaya. In others there is, but in ours we don't make it a public thing. It's an internal thing. So your mood and your absorption on Krishna starts to go very deep, whereas with Vaidhi it's not so deep. It's just doing whatever you have to do, as nicely as you can, attending to all the details, and everything's correct. But there's no bhav in the heart, no real feeling, no emotion there. Not so much, not so developed. Well, outside it becomes very enthusiastic, because internally our attraction is so strong. Like iron filings, they just go to the magnet. They can't resist. They're just drawn to the magnet automatically. So our consciousness is drawn. Even if we try to forget Krishna, we can't forget him, because we've been purified now, and the iron filings are not mixed with anything else. So we're just automatically drawn to Krishna. Because it must be very fascinating to come in contact with your Creator. Because if you create something, there's always a plan, isn't it? If you're making something, someone comes over and says, "What are you making?" And you say, "Oh, I'm making a ship." Then you have a plan. The ship's going to be used to carry things. It's going to go from this port to that port. There's a whole plan involved, you know. So when you come in contact with your Creator, then you can also become aware of what the plan was, why you were created, what was the point of you, of your existence. Up until then, you don't know. So that's very attractive for the souls. Like we're all really interested in ourselves, right? When we get our astrological charts done, or we're getting our palm read, and people are telling us about ourselves, we're fascinated. Oh, you're a very bossy person. Oh, you'll have 3 children. Oh, you'll travel and become famous. Because it's about us. We're really fascinated, really attracted. But imagine if you could find out what you know, not just some diversion, some temporary diversion in the material world, but what you were actually created for in the first place. You find that fascinating, Janet? I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, to find out what is the meaning of your existence. If you function on the level that there is no meaning to your existence, that it's just, you're here but it's just meaningless, there's no real meaning to why you're here, then you take all the magic and interest out of life if it's meaningless. If we're just reduced to chemicals, mechanical, just actually, Chaitanya Charan in his book Illuminations on Bhagavad Gita, he says, are we no more than a blob of protoplasmic chemicals sandwiched between 2 infinities of non-existence? Interesting, yeah? There was nothing before you existed forever, and after you die there'll be nothing about you that exists. And right now you're just in this blob of chemicals. So there's no meaning at all. Life is reduced to total meaninglessness. And then the opposite of that is to find out what is the meaning of our existence. Why are we here? Who are we? And then we find out what it is, because we all have a particular relationship, a unique relationship with Krishna that nobody else has. Nobody else can please Krishna the way that you can. And that's why he created you. Because Krishna likes variety, so he has so many different relationships with so many different living entities, unlimited. And your relationship with him is completely unique. Nobody else has that relationship that you have. So to discover that is fascinating, isn't it? So although it was a difficult service that the Pandavas had to undertake, also they experienced extraordinary ecstasy, because Krishna was so lovingly connected with them and helping them in so many ways. whenever they were in difficulty, Krishna would always appear and help them, like a true friend. And then by displaying that Leela, that encourages all the devotees for millions of years in the future, a million years in the past, that that's what God is like. He's a very loving, caring, kind person. He's more of a person than we are. We find it hard to believe that God can be a person, but He's more personal than we are. We only have a limited capacity for being personal. Any questions, Jananda? It's natural that when someone belonging to one's family circle is understood to be very great, one becomes ecstatic in love, thinking, oh, such a great personality is our relative. When Sri Krishna, who was already known to the Pandavas, was further described by Narada Muni to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally the Pandavas were amazed. So the fact that they were amazed is because they just related to him as a family member. But Krishna enjoys being related to as a family member more than being related to as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do you know the famous verse, Jananda Prabhu? It's in the CC. When my beloved reproaches me in a sulky mood, it steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. We know that one? Reproaches me in a sulky mood, then it steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. This is more attractive to Krishna, that his devotee relates to him as a person rather than as God. Like being related to as the Prime Minister or being related to as a person. And there was a question that was asked about the pastime with Mother Yashoda, that if Krishna was running, then he was crying and mascara was coming down his cheeks. Queen Kunti is remembering in her prayers that vision. And so Rupa Goswami, he answers the question. The question is, well, if he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and now he's afraid of Mother Yashoda, then has he forgotten his position? Or is he always aware of it and he's just pretending? Do you remember what Rupa Goswami said to that? What the answer was? He's either pretending or there seems to be some flaw that God can forget that he's God. Yeah. Do you know what the Shakti is called? There's a Shakti that has a name for that. It's called Achinta Shakti, because it's inconceivable. How can you be simultaneously awake and asleep at the same time? How can you be aware that you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead and at the same time unaware and be afraid? Because the reason why he was afraid was Mother Yashoda had chastised him in the past because Krishna was always doing naughty things, but she'd never picked up a stick before. So that was like a new level of fear, you know. So he was really running because he thought she was going to whack him with the stick. And at the same time, he's aware. So the way his Shaktis work is they serve him, so if it serves his purpose to not know, he doesn't. And when it serves his purpose to know, then they let him know that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's his Shaktis serving him so that the Leela Shakti, the pastime, can actually take place. Otherwise, if he's aware that he's God and Mother Yashoda is chasing him, then that will interfere with him, because he likes to be a person. He likes to forget that he's God and just actually be a person, Just like if you were the Prime Minister and you went back to your family and they were all bowing down to you and opening the door for you, you'd say after a while, look, can we just forget I'm the Prime Minister, I'm at home now, everyone just treat me like a normal person, And then we can have nice, intimate dealings. So Krishna's the same. Yeah, well, Balaram's the source, isn't he? He's the original expansion. Then he's the source of all the incarnations, the Purusha avatars, everything is from Balaram, and he's facilitating everything for Krishna's pleasure. And then there's the internal Shakti, Tattva, the feminine, Radharani, all the goddesses of fortune, all the gopis. That's all Radharani's department. So interesting anyway to meditate on that Krishna especially likes to be treated like a person. They say that with deity worship, punctuality, cleanliness, and always treat Krishna like a person. Hari Bol. Punctuality. Punctuality, cleanliness. I was just listening this morning, Srila Prabhupada was saying, if you continue on with deity worship, then one day the deities will speak to you. And you'll be aware that they're there, they're alive, that they're not stone. Yeah, I think it really means getting second initiation and dressing them and looking after them. If you ask any pujari that's been doing the service for a long time, they'll tell you little things that happen. That's Krishna's just letting them know that he's there, All kinds of interesting stories. And at the manor one time, they went to Prabhupada and they said, Prabhupada, we came in to take the plates off, and it looked like the sweet rice had just exploded, it had just gone everywhere, And Prabhupada said, was it burnt? And they said, only a little bit, Prabhupada. So it wasn't accepted. Krishna's a person, so he can reject, you may offer it, but he may not want to accept it. It's like when you chant, you may want to really hear the holy name and chant and be blissful, but does Krishna want it? Sometimes he's just waiting to see, are you really determined? Do you really want this? Because if you become aware that I'm the holy name, then you'll never stop chanting, because you'll be feeling my presence every time you chant. So are you really ready for that? Because that will destroy every plan that you've got to do anything separate from Krishna will be destroyed if you really get into your japa. So although we think we want to get into our japa, we're actually reluctant, because it means we're going to have to give up all our plans, all our desires. So then Krishna's he's like, I would like for you to hear and be deeply absorbed in me, but do you really want it? I don't want to interfere with your independence. Do you really want it? And then if you do really want it, then Krishna's okay. But you have to prove that to Krishna. And that devotee, Ayendra Prabhu, he was chanting 108 rounds a day, or quite a lot of rounds, more than 64 every day. So that's what happens when you really get a taste, when you really want to chant, then you can't stop chanting, Otherwise, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we're labouring with the mind, with the name, labouring with the name. So it has to reach a certain intensity. The chanting has to reach a certain intensity where you pull free from the G-force of your attachments. When you're on the planet, you want to get away from the planet, you have to get away from the gravitational, and then at one point you pull free and there's no gravitation anymore. So when you get free from your material desires, then suddenly it's okay, but you have to build up a certain intensity and then break free from the G-force. That's why we have marathons. Any questions, Shainanda Prabhu? So we'll have the devotees coming up from the mana, and we want to show them that we're into our japa, and we're into everything. We're fired up.